Hello, and welcome to Positive Fandom. I'm your host, Arden, and I'm here with Tom Jr. Jackson tonight. How are you tonight, Tom?
I'm good. I'm actually good. Got some sleep this morning and I'm doing really good.
I am so glad to hear that. I am doing well. And of course, this is our part two of our live spoiler reaction to the Book of Boba Fett Season 1, Episode 7 finale. And of course, we did our initial part one earlier this morning at 4:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. And now it's 6:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And we're kind of doing the one after we've rested, we've slept, we've had some time to rewatch the episode. It is a spoiler review, so I should put that at the bottom. Let me just see if I can create a brand new
I'll,
banner.
I'll
Episode
tell you
7.
this. I've watched it not just once, not just twice, three times
Wow.
because it really does go by.
It really does. And I have to say that this episode really had so much in it. It was really just full of action. And I was kind of excited to see where it was going to go because we didn't really know what they were planning. This is just it was just such a treat in the sense of being able to see, these fantastic scenes. And, I personally am still kind of trying to wrap my head around everything that has happened in this episode and honestly in this series from beginning to end, because a lot has actually happened. And in this particular episode, I mean, we knew that at some point there was going to have to be some sort of fighting, some kind of altercation between, let's say, Team Boba and Team Pikes.
Yeah.
So we knew that that was going to happen. It's just that I think what's really interesting about it is that for the first time, and hello, Mike Alito, I'm glad you're here. For the first time ever, watching an episode or watching a Star Wars show like this, I really didn't know what was going to happen. I mean, I had really no clue, although there were a lot of signs. And I think one of the most obvious signs was the cliffhanger that they left us with last week with Grogu. And I have to say, although the episode starts off where Boba and his crew meet up, and there's a situation where he gets confronted by Bane. He's being offered or confronted by him saying, at least I think it may not be exactly at this point, but Bane shows up, and we saw Bane in the previous episode, and now here he is back, and Bane has a confidence that he can kind of make or put Boba in a situation where Boba is going to be influenced to do something he doesn't want to do. But before we get to that, I have to say that, we did see Grogu again in this episode. And I am pleased as punch that Grogu was in this episode again, because my biggest fear a lot of times is when they do episodes like this, Tom, you're not always guaranteed that you're going to see that character again for quite some time. And to have such a big cliffhanger where, Grogu had to make this decision, pretty much just about whether or not he was going to accept that armor from Din. I was at a point where I almost felt like, well, maybe they won't tell us what he decides, and we will have to wait until the next season of The Mandalorian, or maybe even longer than that. Perhaps they weren't going to show Grogu until season 4 or 5 of The Mandalorian. You never know when a character is going to return in a series. So, I wondered, gee, what if we don't really even find out this answer until, many years later? Fortunately, we found out the answer. And I really liked that they didn't show us Grogu having to choose, like literally reach out for the armor or reach out for the lightsaber. Now, were you surprised by Grogu's decision to take the armor? Because I kind of feel like he probably still has a lightsaber somewhere. But what did you think, Tom? Do you think Grogu made a wise decision?
I think, yeah. First of all, I was surprised that they didn't show the decision, but I understood why. It's for pacing and whatnot, probably. Um, but yeah, I think he missed Den so much, and probably saw in the Force that Din was going to need him,
Hmm.
and that is why he showed up. But it's funny. I found a little something. I found some things out today about the episode, like when Grogu comes down in the X-wing, and the mechanic picks him up, and uh, she's told Grogu's name, and she's like, "Grogu, oh, that's a horrible name." Apparently, that is a not only an Easter egg, but a nod at the fans for the how they felt when they heard the name for the first time on The Mandalorian, because everybody had that reaction, like, "Grogu, what? That's terrible." And so they literally took that and put it into the episode. So they're listening. The writers and stuff like that, they're listening. We may not think they are, but they are. So they're putting little things like that into the episode, which I found to be really funny, you know? But yeah, I think that Grogu probably knew that Din was going to need him. And it turned out Grogu was right. He was right about that. Grogu almost got stabbed. Not Grogu. Din almost got stabbed. But I love how Grogu had that swagger of just walking out there and you know going up against that giant uh the robot, the scorpionak or whatever they call it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
the scorpion droids. Yeah.
yeah, which it's funny because those are going to be used for the Phantom Menace, and they were never used. And I think they may have been in the comics at one point, but they were never used, and so now they're canon. They've never been on screen in animated form or live action form. So those robots are now canon, which I was like, this is pretty cool. But I did get that RoboCop feel from them as well. Yes, I agree with you, Mikey Lito. Grogu is a little badass, and every single person that ended up coming to help, it was like badass central. It's like you didn't know what was going to happen in this episode, and that was great.
Yeah, it
Why? At first you're like, okay, well, I'm going to see this happen and this happen, and you did see, XYZ happen, but then there was more to that, which I loved.
hmm And hello, SYZE size one. Hello to you. Thank you for coming. And Scotty R37. Hey, how are you tonight? Thank you for coming tonight to the show. Um, and also, and Mikey Lito was here last night or this morning,
Yeah.
listening to the show with us and commenting. Guys, go ahead and comment in the chat so we can hear your opinions about some of the stuff that we're talking about. It doesn't have to be what we're talking about right now. It can be anything pertaining to the show. So please go ahead and share your comments and concerns. Yeah, I agree with you, Tom. This it's really cool that they would decide to go ahead and respond to how the fans felt about Grogu's name. And I admit that I was not terribly fond of Grogu's name. I'm not quite sure what his name would have been, and any name should do. But between that and between people on Facebook asking, what would Grogu's voice sound like, and only wrong answers. We're all trying to figure out what he's going to sound like when he starts to talk, and he seemed kind of more vocal or making more noises this time when he landed in the X-wing in the bay in Pele's hangar bay. And he popped himself out of the top of the X-wing, just so you could see his little head sticking out. And Pele was incredibly excited to see him. I was incredibly excited to see him, but I also feel a little conflicted. So I always felt like he needed to be with Luke longer, but maybe it wasn't to be right now. And I also question Luke sending him solo like this, with R2. It's not that R2 couldn't get you there. It's just that Grogu had been in danger so much with people chasing after him. So I probably would have had to escort him myself and then just go back. But it's okay.
And R2 did complain about that. Like, we got to hurry up now. It's like, I got things to do. R2 was just complaining, and she's like, well, hang on here. Baby's got to eat.
Yeah, it's funny because Pele is always telling Din, you have a lot to learn about raising a young one. And, he does have to eat. And hello, Mark O'Brien, to you. Thank you for joining the chat. He does have to eat and, take a rest every once in a while. He's not 100% full of energy. And he is still, for all practical purposes, a child until they say he's no longer a child. I think he probably still is a child. So, and so Mark O'Brien is talking about the new Obi-Wan poster. It looks amazing. It starts May 25th. Well, thank you, Mark O'Brien. We will be covering the new Obi-Wan show. Gee, it's just around the corner, isn't it, Tom?
Yeah, and it'll be warmer weather for us.
It will be. It'll be nice and warm, and I'll probably be able to go to the beach and walk on the boardwalk without freezing to death. So I'm looking forward to that.
But one of the things I did want to say was we do hear a word come from Grogu, and I always watch these shows with the subtitles on because you never know what you're gonna miss. And all you just see is he coos and whatnot. But Grogu says something to the Rancor, and his voice sounded like almost like a Yoda type voice, but not as deep and not as high, but sort of like in the middle. And it is one word, and I tried to listen to it, see if I could identify what he said, and it could have been sleep.
I like that, Tom. I like that a lot.
And you do see him like sleep almost, like he's petting it, and then he lays down next to it. That's the statue I want, is the Rancor sleeping and Grogu laying next to it.
It's absolutely adorable. I want that too. I think it would be so cool seeing them together and just kind of, taking the time out to say, we need a break. We need to rest now. It's time to rest. We're going to rest. I'm tired. You're tired. You've been, there's nothing to be afraid of anymore, Mr. Rancor. And I'm going to help you get some rest and relax and go to sleep and just, kind of chill out. And he does. Mikey Lito says, isn't the reality that you could make up any name for a Star Wars character, especially a non-human, and it be completely fine? I make up Star Wars character names all the time. Well, Mikey Lito, I'd love for you to share some of those Star Wars names with us. And also, Scotty R37 says, Grogu will sound like Troy McClure, but seriously, I hope he has a bassier Yoda, like
bassier Yoda like voice.
Yes, absolutely. Mark O'Brien says, I thought Grogu was going to speak after taming the Rancor. Well, that's very interesting that he thought that, and you had heard something, Tom. That is very interesting. It would have been great to have, to hear that, and perhaps he will. Wouldn't that be something? And it's about time, right? Size One says, I like the Deborah Chow Mando episodes, so I'm cautiously optimistic about the Obi-Wan show. Okay, well, we understand that. And Mikey Lito says, whatever happened to Farry Gilbots? I don't know what that is. Do you know what it is?
I think that's one of his Star Wars names.
Oh, okay. Well, Mikey Lito, that sounds like it could be in there for sure. Maybe that's the AKA name for Max Rebo. So, and then, oh yes, Mark O'Brien says Pele and the Major Domo was so funny. Now, is he talking about? Uh, he means Pele, the mechanic, and the Major Domo. Maybe he's talking about the guy who.
Yeah, it's the brown noser.
Okay, yes, the guy
Yeah,
who works for the
how
mayor.
Pele shoots and then she sees him and he's like, oh, and she's like, oh, hey, I like your
Yeah, she's
headdress,
hitting on him.
right? And then he's like, oh, well, thank you, and she's like, not now, it's not the time.
Yeah, I have a feeling there'll be we might see a little bit more of those two together. Oh, Scotty R37 is asking me, how do I think Grogu will sound? Uh, I don't know why I feel this way, but I somehow think he might sound like George Mason. Now, I don't know why that is, but that's what I think. What do you think, Tom?
I it makes me wonder if all the characters sound like Yoda, or I mean, like have Yoda's voice or something similar to that, and it almost sounds like that. But I would think that he would have the same cadence as Yoda. Maybe that's how it is on their planet, which I would love to see at some point them go, oh, we know where this youngling is from, and point the way, and they end up on Grogu's planet or something like that.
Right.
Um, let's see here. I would also say that um, it's funny because when I went looking up things about this episode, and I wanted to see who was in the cast and whatnot
Mhm.
for
And
this
hello,
episode.
Carlos A. Smith. I'm sorry, I just wanted to say hi to him before
Yes,
the
hello,
show.
Carla. I wanted to look up who was in the cast and whatnot, and it's funny because I think I either used Google or Bing, um, and they had down Harrison Ford as Han Solo, and I bet whoever did the cast listing for this episode threw that in to distract people. Well, it could have just been wrong, but I went to IMDb and it was just all right. Whoever we saw in the episode, because I was thinking to myself, I don't remember seeing Han Solo in that episode, and so it turned out that it was probably either a fan's way of putting down who was in the episode or a distraction from whoever enters in the names and stuff. But I was pretty happy with everybody that was in the episode and how it was like how each of them all come in and they all start like helping out in the fight. Like Pele comes in and she starts helping out in the fight. And just a moment. Goodbye, Mr. Bot.
Thank you.
Um, I have to say, I think that the way it was executed, how you first have um, Boba, trying to fight off the people. Then Din comes out and helps him out too. So you got Din and Boba fighting, and as you think that they got their backs to the wall, in come the people of Freetown, and it's just like one after another, everybody starts showing up in such a way. It was like one of those. Okay, it's going from here to here to here to here, but it's all coming together at least. We didn't think these people were going to show up. They show up, and the group element of coming together and fighting that one cause. I loved it, and it was very much Star Wars. It was very much a Western. This episode had a lot of Western elements to it,
Yes, it did.
a lot um, with Bane.
Especially with Cad Bane.
Yes, with Bane and Boba, which boy, oh boy, I would have loved to have seen more of the two of them. And I listened again this time to see if I could hear the beacon. I couldn't hear it, but when you see him go down, you see it on the back of him. There's these little lights flashing, so he could possibly be probably hit something that if he gets hit, a homing beacon goes to someone to come and get him. Who knows? He could still be alive. He could still be dead. Um, but whatever happens, I hope in the future he comes back. You know, if he's not dead, and that we see a reteaming of it, or a not reteaming.
Him
It's
being
what I'm
cast again, I guess.
Yeah, or like seeing another showdown between Bane and Boba, if Boba even comes back.
Mm-hmm. Well, uh, Mikey Lito did mention in a previous comment that, by Luke saying that Yoda spoke in riddles, it was going to imply that that's what Grogu was going to do. I don't want Grogu to speak in riddles, but, they may do that. Also, Size One says, weren't there alleged insider sightings of Harrison during principal photography of Book of Boba Fett? I don't know. This is a good question, and I'm sorry I don't have that answer. Carlos Smith says, so with this chapter put to bed, I felt there was a struggle. Could tell in the editing process, but it does mean going forward. The influence of KK will slide away. This is a good question. I have no idea who was in charge of this lineup, but I wasn't shocked to see Boba Fett in the Book of Boba Fett, but I was surprised to see so much Grogu in these episodes. So that kind of definitely surprised me. And Michael Lito says, I won't be surprised if Harrison Ford shows up in new Star Wars, but I keep reminding people that Lucasfilm is shooting Indiana Jones 5. What do you think, Tom? Do you think Harrison Ford or the Han Solo character is going to show up?
Okay, well, I just looked up the answer to this,
No,
and
I
it
mean,
said
what do
that
you think personally?
what
What
do
do
I,
you
first of
personally
all,
think?
what I think is
Yes.
I really don't see Harrison Ford coming back as Han. Um, and it would take a lot of money to get him just to, hey, can you make an appearance and be in this? Even though he's overseas right now doing Indy 5. And yeah, there have been times when they've had to shut down, but that's because he's been injured. And I don't think we would see an injured um, Han Solo on the show. Because then you're going to be wondering, why is he injured? Why is he limping? Or whatever it is that happened to him. You know what I
Right.
mean? But it says here he was rumored to be on the set in London because they shot it in London for about for the show, and they said he was rumored to be on set for 3 days. According to the paper The Sun, the outlet claims Harrison Ford took a few days off from shooting the fifth Indiana Jones installment to step back into the role of Han Solo, who will be reportedly seen in the series' final episode. Um, Obviously that didn't happen.
Yeah.
It would have been nice, but I just don't see how he goes to the producers of Indie going, you know what, I want to take a few days off and just go secretly shoot something for Boba Fett. I don't see someone doing that while making a movie. And that's just me.
Well, you make a good point, and I didn't think we were going to see Harrison. It would have been nice to have seen him, but unfortunately we didn't. I want to welcome Loco Lou to the broadcast. Loco Lou, how are you today?
I'm good. I'm good. Thank you for having me again. Been a little bit busy today. Very
I
busy.
I understand. We're just so happy to have you for however long you can be here. It's a 2-hour broadcast. We've done 30 minutes so far, so we're a little bit into it. But you certainly are welcome, and thank you for joining us. And what we were talking about, that Tom was explaining, and some of the people in the chat, is about the idea that is if it's possible that Harrison may go ahead and appear somehow. And I guess there were rumors that he would appear in episode 7 of the Book of Boba Fett. Did you think there was any weight to these claims?
I think it was really like kind of like clickbait, if you will. We get rumors all the time. Sometimes they come out true, sometimes they don't. And in accordance to Star Wars and how things play out, you can't really trust the rumor. You just have to wait and see for yourself. Because, you can put Harrison Ford there all you want, but realistically, if he's filming something else and he said it himself, he's done with the character, there's no possible way they'll bring him back to reprise his role. Because if he's done, he's done. And from the rumors, he's a stubborn individual to deal with, on a professional level, but that's, to each their own. If he doesn't want to play the character, you can't force him to play the character.
Right. And it is very interesting because that particular character, has his likeness, and therefore, he's forever associated with this character. And, if they were going to do anything with that character, I guess they could find other ways to do it. But it is very interesting to think about how he would be incorporated in a show. Mark O'Brien says, I can see Han being in a Luke series. And John and Dave will have planned out the series 3 years ahead, like Dave did with the animated series. And he further goes on to say, we need Luke and Han to get some screen time after getting none in ST. I'm assuming that means what is
Sequel
ST?
trilogy.
Okay, thank you. Thank you both. Drew Gordon. Hi, Drew Gordon. Welcome to the program. He says that the finale was shockingly bad, especially for people such as myself. You've been enjoying it so far. Yes, I have been enjoying it. Sorry you didn't enjoy it, but I do welcome your views because that's how the show is. I like to hear differing views. Carlos A. Smith says, as it stands, doing any movies from Lucasfilm, especially on Star Wars, will be sleeping for a while. It has been kind of quiet. Like there hasn't been anything, in production. Disney has a lot of debt to remove, and Lucasfilm production staff has to be cleaned up. And we also have Hillbilly. Hillbilly, welcome to the chat. Grogu will teach the Mandalorian to use the Force. I think he will also teach the Mandalorian not just to use the Force if he has any Force abilities, but also to use the Darksaber. What do you think, Tom? Do you think Grogu can teach? We haven't actually seen Grogu even pick up a saber, but Tom, do you think Grogu could help Din use the Darksaber and perhaps even leave it to Grogu, as part of, when he passes on, so to speak, in an inheritance?
Right. Well, I think Grogu could teach Din about patience, which, as we saw in episode 5, is what Ahsoka was kind of teaching him, to be patient and you'll get your answer. And I think that Grogu could probably be the one to teach him that. But I also do think, Grogu could teach him how to clear his mind and use the Darksaber. But now that Grogu is back, I don't see any problems now with Din using that Darksaber, because he's not worried about will he ever see Grogu again, because Grogu is there. So his mind may be clear and able to use it, but only time will tell,
Right. And what about you, Loco Lou?
I agree. I noticed that too. When Din Djarin goes with the Darksaber to cut the Scorpion droid and he can't penetrate through, he holds it in a lighter sense. So instead of it being overwhelmingly heavy where he needs two hands to carry the sword, you see him literally bending his elbow, one-handed, striking the barrier with just a single hand stroke, not even dual wielding it. So that shows already that his balance is getting balanced. He's not off balance anymore. He's getting a little bit more centered. He knows what he wants to do moving forward. And it's just a very nuanced, if you will. It's very subtle. You see it, and if you missed it, you missed it. If you caught it, you caught it.
Exactly. And there's even more comments. Let me see if I can grab this one. Carlos. Carlos says the Darksaber is too big and does not adjust in length. It does actually adjust in length, doesn't it? I think it does, Carlos. I think it adjusts in length and adjusts in force and power according to the wielder. So, and Loco Lou, are you familiar with this?
I'm not familiar with the saber changing size, but it does change in density. If you're not sure about yourself, you can't wield the saber. And you see it in Rebels and Clone Wars, where Sabine is trying to wield the saber and it's just a little heavy.
Yeah, her exact words are, "It's heavier than I thought." And of course, as a Mandalorian, growing up as a Mandalorian, Sabine has used so many weapons through her years of life. So it's not a surprise how she would be doing something like that. And hey, how are you, Islamic? Nice to see you here tonight. Islamic says Luke will be instrumental in teaching Luke how to.
I think he means the Mando.
He meant Din.
Okay, good. Luke will be instrumental in teaching Din how to wield the Darksaber properly. That's what I thought was going to happen when we saw this series. I thought that Grogu was going to stay with Luke just a little while longer, and that Din, after he gives Grogu the armor, which Grogu would just take, that Din would go off to Book of Boba Fett, handle all that, and then come back and train at the same time that Grogu is. He'd be another student of Luke's, and Din would learn how to use the Darksaber, and Grogu would just continue to learn how to use the Force. What do you think about that, Tom? Do you think it would be possible for Luke to take on the Mandalorian, to take on Din as a student and Grogu at the same time in a different way? What do you think about that?
Maybe, but it depends if Luke is even up for it or wants to do it. But as we've seen, Grogu mirrors how Luke was, worried about his friends and Leia and all that. And I think Luke sees that, but looks at it like, well, he won't finish. And it just seems that Luke has forgotten how he said, "Oh, I'll be back." He comes back and he's finished. So they said he doesn't need to train anymore. But excuse me, it's been a long day. I think, maybe if Luke wants to, if he's willing to. If he's willing to do it, then he'll do it. But I find it very funny that the only people to mention a Darksaber was the Armorer and Heavy Mando, but not Boba and not Luke. Well, no, Luke didn't even know he had it, though. Maybe he didn't, but I'm just surprised that Boba didn't go, what is that you have? Is that what I think that is? But then
Here's a
again, they're in the moment, they're in the moment fighting. So
mm-hmm.
still, I'm just surprised that whoever saw him use that was not like, is that what I think that is? But that's just me.
What do you think, Loco Lou?
I think that it's a moment in battle that no one gets to see. We saw it as the fans, like, oh, how did they not see it? If you're in the middle of a battlefield, you're not paying attention to anything else other than what's around you that's trying to get you and the cover you're trying to protect yourself from. And try to do that with a Mandalorian helmet on as well. So that's a layer of vision you do not have on top of everything else going on. And especially if you're riding a Rancor, the focus has to go to the Rancor. So, with the whole Din and Luke lightsaber training kind of situation, I don't see that happening. Anyone who wielded the dark saber didn't have any form of Jedi training wielding a lightsaber of any type, knowing that the lightsaber is a traditional weapon of the Jedi. So this is specifically and exclusively for Mandalorians. And those who come to find out about the saber go through the trials and tribulations of the saber itself versus, oh, I'm like a Jedi now, or I'm like a Sith now. No, 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 no. This is a different layer of part of the same cake. And you just got to dig in and see that this is just going to be Din Djarin's journey versus him co-oping with a certain cast member that we want to see again. So season 3, we definitely going to see more involving the dark saber, involving the choices that Grogu made, and what is to be of maybe Mandalore, if he's going to go back to where he's supposed to rule, if he's going to rule, is the rest of Mandalore and the survivors are going to come after him, being that he is wielding it kind of like Afro Samurai style. There can only be number one. To get the number one bandana, you have to fight the best. So, it could be one of those things.
That is very interesting. I know as a fan, I want to see Din use the dark saber correctly, so it's not so much of a burden as he's trying to wield it. And of course, it may take him a long time to get to that point where he can.
Mm-hmm.
And I really don't know if Luke could bring him there. It might be a journey that he has to take, that Din has to take on his own, which is something else to think about. However, we did see the armorer kind of, give him, she wanted to actually just see how well he could use it. And she seemed to be able to wield it. So maybe it is something in the Mandalorian way of being able to wield a weapon or having respect for a weapon, which we've heard in other IPs about having respect for weapons when you use them. And if you don't, you could either hurt yourself or, really hurt others in a bad way. So I think it's very interesting to look at it. And Toffee20, hi Toffee20, says the Darksaber is too big for Grogu. Mando will master it now that Grogu is his side. And Carlos Smith goes on to say, all lightsabers are adjustable, but the Darksaber is the only weapon built that does not change size. Let's not forget a Mandalorian built it with Jedi knowledge. Right. It was, is it Tar Vizsla?
Tar Vizsla.
It was Tar Vizsla who was a Mandalorian Jedi. And I know it is very true. And I'm not going to say that I always do this, but people have noted that whenever somebody, seems to have more abilities, many people will say, not all the time, but many people will say, well, maybe they're force sensitive. I think that there's, different degrees of force sensitivity. And it's no coincidence that Din has been surrounded by force users and force weapons. There has to be something to this, at least as far as I'm concerned. But many Mandalorians have found themselves in this situation. And Mark O'Brien says he's looking for more students just now anyway, and he's referring to Luke. And Mikey Lito says, I mentioned during part 1 of the recap that I thought the series should have been edited down to a 2-part feature presentation for Disney's. That might have been very interesting. If it had been, we would have gotten 2 things to be excited about rather than just one series. And I would have been fine with just 3 episodes, like it would be like a sequel or a trilogy or something for Boba Fett if that was what needed to be done. Richie Dupe, hey Richie, thank you for coming to the chat. Hail and bananas to all. Well, bananas to you too, Richie. Thank you so much. And Michaelito says not everything needs to be a 6 to 8 week series just because it's for streaming. And the Thizamic says, I don't think Mando will become a student of the academy because he has the creed, but Luke will give him the instruction. Now that's something else too to think about. Luke has all those books, right? Loco Lou,
Yes.
that he got from the temple that probably has some lore about other Force users. If anybody knew anything about the dark saber, obviously it would be the Mandalorians. But if Tar Vizsla was a Mandalorian Jedi, did he practice at the temple, at the Jedi temple? Is that how he?
It's possible. I really don't know. His lore is just he's a Mandalorian Jedi. He's trained with both sides of the fence. His story has not been fleshed out. So that'll be a nice a series to watch, Tar Vizsla and his journey into building the Darksaber and going to war with it and how he lost it and how it's in circulation now. That'll be really, really awesome to see. But as far as that goes, we don't know nothing.
And thank you for that explanation, Loco Lou. And hello, Darth Plato. Hello, welcome. Scotty R37 says the greatest compliment towards the show that he has heard was that it was seeing all the best parts of the Star Wars galaxy playing in a great sandbox. And that, I think, really is not a bad way to describe what we've seen. Drew Gordon says, Mikey Lito, sorry, I like to have some decent writing and direction in the finale, consistency, not a load of silly nonsense. Okay, we hear you, Drew Gordon. And Carlos Smith says, the Darksaber is an emotion font weapon. The more focused you are, the lighter it gets. The opposite. It gets heavy and unwielding. The armorer is a focused person, as her creed. She must be so. She certainly is a focus type of person. Also, so the other thing that I wanted to kind of talk about a little bit, and I did ask this question of Tom Jr., Logo Lou, earlier before you came on the air.
Okay.
I noticed that Grogu, while it's true he was in the X-Wing. See, this is me. My protective instinct is that he was alone with R2, which is fine. R2 was not going to hurt him, but he was alone. And Luke promised that he would protect him with his life. And I'm thinking, at the very least, Luke could have just dropped him off and then gone on his way. Was Grogu in any danger? After all, he's been hunted before, and people have key fobs on him.
I don't think he was in any kind of danger whatsoever because he was with R2-D2, and R2-D2 being the droid that we know and love, him piloting an X-Wing is akin to Luke piloting the X-Wing. So if he recorded any of his flight patterns and his reactions, he would assimilate to that and download that into his programming in order to successfully fly if there's any danger and evade certain things. So I don't think he was in any danger whatsoever, and I think it was just Luke trusting his droid like he usually does, and having faith that the child will get to his destination safe and sound. Specifically, if he knows his last whereabouts, and especially where he's going to be at in case of anything. Yeah, I think he was fine.
Okay, all right. I can get a little overprotective of my Grogu. So, I just as a super fan, you and Tom both know that, I just want to make sure he's safe. And I'm glad that I'm so glad that Pele gave him some dung worms. They looked disgusting.
Oh my
But
God.
Grogu seemed to like them. Um and I did there are a lot of things that we saw Grogu kind of falling into. And the first thing that I thought was, of course, we know that Ahsoka left the Jedi Temple, let's say before she became a Jedi Master, because I think she was a
Mhm.
Padawan.
Yeah.
And um, when we see her again, let's say the last episode before we see her in live action, or one of the last episodes in season 7 of the Clone Wars, Ahsoka says something like, she says to Mace Windu, he says, well, are you joining us as part of the Jedi? Because they want her back. They want her back. Of course they want her back. And she says, well, I'm here as a citizen. I think that's what she said.
Yeah.
Is Grogu going to be like Ahsoka, a citizen or something else? Tom, what do you think?
Maybe. I just wanted to go back to your question about why R2 brought Grogu instead of Luke. And I was listening to both your answers and stuff. I don't think Luke wanted to go back to Tatooine.
That could be it too. Yep.
It could be too many memories of that. It probably would remind him of either Ben or his aunt and uncle, and I don't think he wanted to be distracted by that. But to answer the question you originally asked me, I think Grogu will choose whatever he wants to be. If he wants to be like a regular citizen, he'll be a regular citizen. If he wants to be a light, how did I hear it? A lighter, sensitive,
Force
force
sensitive.
user. Yeah,
Mhm.
like not as deep into the force as we would think, but then again, as Lucas said, excuse me, I'm just awakening things from him again. And they've already called him a Padawan. So for all we know, Grogu knows far more than we know about him. And there has to be a reason that too much of the force knocks him out. And I'm sure at some point we'll find out.
Yeah, that's a good point. We have Maximilian Rodadovich. Hello, Maximilian. It's always a pleasure to see you here in the chat. And Maximilian says, as goofy as it is, yeah, I'd give it to R2 to handle flying a ship. If BB-8 can handle half a walker, R2 certainly is an ace pilot, and that is a very good point.
Mhm.
And Size One also said, I'm wondering that if Luke signed off on R2 taking Grogu to Tatooine, so they kind of went rogue, huh? He's like, okay, R2, I gotta leave in the morning, but we gotta make sure Luke doesn't know. That'd be like Mission Impossible, I think, but I do like the sound of it.
Mhm.
What do you guys think?
Yeah. I think it was more of a duty on R2's part versus it being a side mission, like, oh yeah, let's escape, let's go do our own thing kind of thing, because it really boiled down to that lone wolf and cub, choose either the blade or the ball, and if you choose ball, I'll send you with your mother, which is in death. If you choose the sword, you will live with me, but we will face life ahead of us and all the treacherous stuff along the way. So that's basically what it was. But in this instance, the lightsaber was the ball versus the chainmail, and the chainmail being the sword, because he's having his adventure with Din. He's not in the temple, he's not studying or anything like that. Plus, it was more of Grogu kind of resharpening his skills as a force user, and he's 50 years old in a toddler's body. So he has, oh, what, 5 generations of Jedi users around him. If he's force sensitive and people know of his species and his species being specifically force sensitive, because we already seen 3 of these specific alien creatures, and all 3 of them having force abilities. So, and being very in tune with the force at that.
That is also very interesting. Carlos A. Smith says, "Is R2D2 force touch? Because after a while, if his memory is not scrubbed, does he become sentient?" Now, this is a question that a lot of us have had about the droids and the astromechs in the Star Wars universe, and I'd like to think that quite a few of them must be sentient at this point. You know, they just, I just imagine that they would have to be. But I don't know whether we can get into a deep discussion about that, but it's definitely something that we probably could touch on at some point as to,
No, it was 3CPO. It was C3PO, whose memory was scrubbed, but they didn't do that to R2 for some reason. But they did it to the protocol droid. I remember that in episode 3. That's what they said.
Mm-hmm.
Scrub this the protocol droid's memory or whatever it is. So it could be that they wanted all that stuff in R2 for a reason.
right. Thank you for saying that. And here, one person says he thinks that Thalsmic says he would have taken him back. That was his vow. I know they just know that I love hearing the idea of Grogu kind of sneaking off. I just love it. So the other thing, there's one more comment by Max that says, "This was a wacky theory one of my friends threw my way. What if Mando is setting not himself up to be the Mandalorian, but instead Grogu, a Jedi Mandalorian who one day will have the Darksaber?" What do you think about that, Loco Lou?
It's a possibility, but it's not likely, because one, that would mean that there's another Jedi out there in the world, and would this would he be amongst those that Kylo had killed trying to find his way to Luke? You know, like he was just like Vader in every sense. He's eliminating all Jedi. There is no more Jedi. So, you know, being that the case, you know, you're setting up a darker future for Grogu as being part Jedi and Mandalorian. But then, you know, we still don't know. His story is being told. So, you know, he could outlive, you know, Mando and still be this infant. And his story will still be, you know, told somewhere else, because wherever his travels will lead him. Yes, it'll be a nice, you know, thought to have, but then we're kind of like rehashing older material to satisfy the urge to have Yoda back in any way, shape, or form.
Mm-hmm. And what do you think, Tom?
Yeah. Yeah, I think that you know, now I'm thinking about it, that's true. They would have to realize that there's another Jedi out there. Someone who is very force sensitive would know that. But I can't help going back to when they found Grogu in the second season of Mando, and Moff Gideon said, "We've got all we needed from him." And it makes me wonder, what did they take from Grogu? And
well, they said they took blood samples from Grogu.
Right.
Yeah, they wanted to study him at his metachlorine level. So they're trying to, like, in what I'm remembering from season 2 is that we saw the cloning facilities, and to get a proper clone to be a descendant of Darth Sidious, you know, you need his DNA, but his DNA is deteriorating as he's getting stronger and stronger in power. It shows in his face. But to have an extension of him in a physical form, he would need also the chlorine levels, the M counts. So
Right.
So here's my question then. Do we think at some point Grogu will go to the dark side?
I can't tell right now. I think that it's a little early to do that because he's just so young. I think when he starts talking and he's more mature, I'll be able to kind of get a sense of that. But right now, I don't know whether he's even going to go to the light side. He may just remain neutral and not do anything. So I can't say either way. What about you, Loco Lou?
Yeah, I would agree that he's a neutral party. He's not gonna go for either side, even though he was trained by Jedi in the ways of using it in the light. And I think it's more natural to use the Force in dark ways because you tap into your emotions at a higher level because it's happening in the moment versus doing something in light, which takes training. It's harder to do. So, that's why the Force choke is more akin to a Sith doing it versus a Jedi doing it. So, a Force choke will probably be nothing. You're sucking the air out of individual. For instance, Grogu did that to Cara Dune.
Yes.
Right, and it was nothing to him. It was nothing to him.
And he didn't crush her neck. He just, like you said, removed the air from her lungs, so to speak, or something like that.
Yes, he basically suffocated her, like a Force choke. It was technically a Force choke, but it was more like he was doing it because he thought Din was in danger while they were arm wrestling. Right. So, being that tapping into the dark side is like you hear it in the oath. In the oaths, it's easier. Like we could all identify with a Sith versus a Jedi. If you listen to the codes, they sound like they should be backwards. Because it's all about emotion and tapping into that and the feels and all that other stuff. But that also leads to the hurt and the pain and stuff like that. And hurt and pain is a part of life. And it's easy to tap into that. But to tap into the light side, meaning you have to focus on your objective and get it done like a goal. So the light side pushes for more training, dark side, not so much. That's why it's always 2 in the role of Sith. There's only 2. You don't have a whole hundreds of Jedi or Sith Lords. You have many more Jedi than Sith Lords, and Sith Lords you only have 2.
And that's my my dream Sith trilogy is the rule of 2. Mm-hmm. How before it's created, like the creation of the idea, its implementation, and then the legacy that it left behind, which I'm sure a lot of people share. Mikey Lito mentioned that wouldn't it be interesting if The Mandalorian was actually Grogu and not Din Djarin, that the show was actually about? And Max also says his reasoning has more or less the idea of having a leader who would outlive most of his subjects, and he would become Mandalore the Eternal. And there are a lot of good comments in here where people are saying Grogu is a clone, and all different things about Grogu. I'm going to shift the conversation, and you can still talk about Grogu if you want to, but. Oh, thank you, Toffee, for your comment on Midnight Meta. It's coming up soon. And Size One mentioned something about Grogu having rage in him. I think he has fear for sure. And we saw that, didn't we?
PTSD.
I wanted to ask you and Tom about, do you think part of Grogu's memory was erased?
Erased, no. Suppressed, yes.
I agree with that.
Yeah, it wasn't erased. It was suppressed. It's something in like the human brain literally just like stows away and compartmentalized, so that way they don't have to deal with it again. We all do it as human beings, and it's something that I know a lot of military men can relate to. So they compartmentalize and take that part of their section and remove it from their everyday life because it bothers them that much.
Yeah, that's a very insightful thought. And here it says, Darth Plato says, I don't know, guys. I'd be shocked if the Mandalorians would ever follow Grogu, Dark Saber or Dark Saber.
Dark Saber or not, I think that's why he was going.
Yeah.
Okay. And also, let's see what else they're saying. Force choke. Thank you, Carlos, for the definition on this. Force choke doesn't suck the air. That is an elemental effect. That technique squeezes the throat muscles to close. So it's a constriction. Thank you, Carlos, for that. We appreciate that distinction in that. And also, this is something that's also very interesting. I don't believe Din has any aspirations to lead anyone. He is a warrior. And I also feel the same way about Grogu. I don't think he has any aspirations to lead anyone. And so, like this whole section that we get of Grogu, and this is a let's reunite them together episode where he sees Din and he jumps into Din's arms and it's so adorable, and we're happy for them, and he performs these incredible feats that we've seen because Grogu, we know, has the power to do these things. Grogu's never going to be in the sidelines, is he? He's going to help out. He's going to, say, I see, Din is lying down and looks like he's in trouble. I better go ahead and use whatever power I can to help. And he's learning along the way, which I think is wonderful. And I do feel like the storyline did progress for Grogu and perhaps for Din, especially when Din, for me, the biggest and most important thing in the series that happened, as far as I'm concerned, regarding Din, is the fact that he was reunited with the Armorer and Paz Vizsla. And, now that they know he has this saber and he's committed to Grogu, they realize that he's not the same person that was in the Enclave before all of this happened. So, even they are aware that he's grown and has gone on with his life. And, we do see that with his new vessel that he obviously is trekking with Grogu around, and Grogu is there for the ride. So things have kind of changed a little bit for both of them, but they are both a little bit wiser. Do you feel that Boba Fett has changed very much since the beginning of the series? And is he any wiser in things going forward? Tom, what's your opinion?
I'm sorry, what was the question, Ian?
We've seen how Grogu and Din have changed in the series. They've grown. They've got a lot more knowledge. They're wiser in their decisions now. Grogu's taking chances, and he's going to obviously have Mando's back. And we can see somehow that their story has progressed forward a bit, especially when Din went in to see the Armorer and Vizsla and reunited with some of the people from the Watch. Do you think that Boba Fett has grown and changed in the episodes that we've seen in the book of Boba Fett?
You know what? Yeah, I do. I think both Grogu and Boba Fett have grown. Grogu does not sit on the sidelines anymore. He gets out there. He went and helped. Then he helped them all those people. He just went out there like it was nothing. Whereas, for anyone else who has had PTSD or whatever, they'd probably be in shock and just stand there and stare. He just went out there like, just sauntering out there like a, cool guy, and raises a hand and figures out how to make the robot explode and whatnot. And Din, I would say, yes, he has a little bit matured in the way that he did miss Grogu, but when he admitted that, yes, he had his helmet off, and then asked how to, how can I get this back? How can I get back my status as Mandalorian? And they told him go to the mines of Mandalore. I think for that, just to be told, for asking for as a way of re-upping his status as a Mandalorian again, I think at any point had he not met the people he'd met, he'd probably be like, "Oh, okay," and it would have went off depressed. But in so many ways, he just went, "Okay, how can I fix this? I want to fix this," and he was given that task. And he went to Tatooine, and he got people to help him, but they said they do it for free. And any other person would be like, no, no, hold on here. I think basically he's learned from his adventures of how much better he can be. That's basically it. And I think he's just going to continue to learn and evolve and become a better Mandalorian. I really think that.
Well, Louis Libet says, "What's up, everyone?" And we also see Maximilian says he never asked us if we liked the ship, and we certainly will answer that question. I hope this is the right super chat. And also, Toffee20 makes a good point of saying they don't look too thrilled. Boba and Fennec don't look too thrilled with their new occupation. Loco Lou, do you think that Boba Fett has grown in this series that we've seen, the Book of Boba Fett season 1?
Grown? I wouldn't say grown. I would say changed entirely. Because he's different from the Boba Fett we know. And this is setting in stone that he's a different Boba Fett. So even going to the point where he's listening to his staff, if you will, and staying in the ruins instead of going to the fortress, instead of going to where it's safer, they are in the middle of the city, taking down everything they possibly can with the odds against them. Like they're in ruins, they're not protected by anything. So, he's using a different approach, and he listens more to the people around him other than him barking an order and him just taking charge and doing it. And you can say it's bittersweet, specifically if you're a fan of the comics and all his adventures and stories and battles and whatnot. But even the encounter with Cad Bane, he says to him, you're getting slow in your old age. And Boba Fett responds, but we all do. Or he says, you're getting soft in your old age. And he says, but we all do. So it's saying that, yeah, it's time to turn a new leaf and become a different individual. I've done the same song and dance for so long, and I want something different. And having the relation to the Tusken Raiders just added more to that. Like, you know what? I kind of want to have this companion lifestyle and not a hermit lifestyle where I can't trust nobody.
Yeah, you make a good point. And we kind of see that it's nice to see Boba fighting with the Team Boba.
Mhm.
There were a lot of great scenes where Boba and Din were fighting together. And it felt so good to see them kind of like, they were to each other's backs.
Mhm.
And or maybe not exactly, that way, but kind of like that kind of formation where the two of them were together. And we did talk about that pledge that Din had said, no, this is the creed. I promise to be here. And if I die here, that's just how it goes down.
Mhm.
And, it's like, it was fantastic. And I think, Boba is going to remember that, Din is a man of his word and he'd be willing to die for something if he had to. you know, which doesn't quite feel like what a lot of the bounty hunters would say. And I think that, you know, Boba is seeing, well, you know, Din is a bounty hunter, and now he has this sort of noble a way of looking at his responsibility of being there for Boba to the death. And I loved seeing those fighting scenes. I felt like the fighting scenes that they had were the best ones. That segment where he and Din are together and they're like, oh, they just keep coming, you know, but they just kind of, you know, kick ass so well there. And I thought if they had better cover, they could probably just, you know, kill off, you know, every bad guy on the planet if they needed to. But I also have to wonder, you know, it's like, it was wonderful that they won this, let's say, this battle, you know. We know more pikes will come eventually. We know probably the Hutts will show up at some point. But I can't help but thinking about and looking at this comment that Toffee20 made, because it was kind of interesting to see Boba and Fennec walking down the streets of Tatooine now with respect after having kind of saved things and kind of gotten rid of those pesky pikes from the city, that they weren't too thrilled with their new position. And Boba even goes so far as to say, I wonder if I am the right person to be doing this. What did you think about that, Tom?
You know, I found that interesting. So it was just like, okay, I've done what I came to do, but now I feel like there's more. He feels like there's more he should be doing. It's almost as if he kind of wants more action, but doesn't want more action, and maybe he thinks that he's going to get bored running a city, but I think really he's going to I think he's either going to find more adventures or he's just going to end up settling into being either the mayor or the leader of that town. Something that I don't think we've brought up this morning or even now is before Bane went to see Boba, he was with the mayor and the Pikes, and somehow the Pikes knew where Boba was staying, and it makes me wonder if it was someone in town that told him, or if it was someone that was with Boba who told him. Because as far as I know, I don't remember anybody sneaking off and telling these people where Boba was staying, because Boba said, no, hold on here. It sounds more like the brown noser, whose name I can't remember.
Oh, the Twi'lek,
Major Domo.
Yes.
He must have figured out a way to tell the Pikes exactly what Boba was doing. He could have been behind it. He could have probably found a way. But then again, he's a brown noser and he'd do whatever he can to stay in good graces and not get killed. But I just wonder who could have told them.
Well,
if it was someone in the town.
It's a good question.
Well, I can answer that real quick. It was remember the meeting that Boba Fett had with the other crime bosses, telling them stay neutral, don't interfere. Right. This is my fight against the these individuals. You know, just stay neutral, and you know we're gonna have this area free for everyone, and so on and so forth. But they double crossed them, and that's how they found out, because the townspeople were attacking your Power Ranger group in the Vespas.
That's right.
They were attacking, and that's why they knew where he was at, because they were already plotting against him. Excuse me for a second.
No. Thank you. And hello to Latino Slant. Hey, Paulie. Thank you for stopping by to the show. It's always wonderful to have you here listening in.
Yeah.
And please give us your thoughts in the chat as well if you like. We certainly do want to hear those as well. I know you had a fantastic review with Cameron and I can't remember the gentleman's name, but Tom Conkle. That's right, Tom Conkle. So I can't wait to watch that as well. So guys, go ahead and check out Latino Slants channel, Paulie's channel. It's fantastic. And the other thing I was going to say is here, we have a few more comments. I don't know if I said hello to Louis Libetz, but so looking at it from that point of view of having Boba and Fennec walking down the street, kind of, wondering, how did I get here? And
The
was this
occupation question? Yeah.
Yeah. Did you have more to say on that, Loco Lou?
I think it's just like with any objective or goal anyone has set forth, for themselves. Once they get to the end of it, what's next? Did I change really? That's why, when you say mature or grown up or using these terms, it doesn't necessarily apply to those who are living through a specific pattern of life. If you're a bounty hunter, live in a specific way. Now you're kind of changing your roles to do something else. For instance, if you saw Finnick, she was ecstatic to go find Din Djarin because why? They still they did their mission. They did what they had to do, and their oppositions are no longer there because it was a job. When it comes down to the job, you win at the job, you fell at the job, and if you know you're going to succeed at the job, it was the job. And if your employer, the person who hired you, got X'd out by your actual job, you really don't want to mess with that job anymore. So seeing her face when she sees Din, it's more like, okay, I'm excited. We're going to get into some shit right now. Pardon my French. But also the fact that, I don't know if I could, stay in this cushy position. I need action. And you saw her, how fast she got from point A to point B and executing her targets. So it's a turn. It's like, okay, well, we have a newfound respect. The crime bosses are not bothering us anymore. This is a state of peace. And we all know that soldiers cannot stay in a state of rest when there's peace. Because why? You always have to be prepared for the unexpected, which is always a war, tyrant, gang members, or what have you, whatever kind of syndicate crosses their path, including a new empire.
Yeah, and there certainly is you could definitely feel that there was like a détente,
Mm-hmm.
in the episode, and it certainly made Fennec and Boba feel uneasy, but I don't think that the people in the area felt uneasy because you kind of looked around and it looked like an ordinary day in their city, and I think people like a détente feeling because it means that there isn't going to be any fighting or altercations or bombings, like what we saw at the sanctuary. But it was food for thought because I think that Boba will be fine in that position, but will Fennec? She's still kind of, I think, has the passion to do those jobs, and I think that although she will stay, faithful to Boba, I have a feeling that she's going to go out and do jobs like she's always done. Whether it's to find Omega and go ahead and protect her from other bounty hunters or whatever the job is. I have a feeling she'll keep doing that. So, I think it's this idea of, it's true that it's a détente and it means that, nothing is going on. Then there are always other problems that may arise that he's going to have to face. And I just hope that he's prepared to face those problems in the world, or at least in this capital city there that he's trying to create.
How great was that Fennec scene when she goes after the heads there? And I literally thought when you're watching the lead Pike there going like this, I thought she was going to go sliding down the route, the side of the place, and come in through that door. Wasn't expecting her to come down behind him, and that was great. That
I think
scene, how she just zip, 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 zip,
mhm.
and then her leaving and looking around, and I know she probably saw the two Pikes that were standing outside. Probably took care of those guys too.
Mm-hmm.
But
Well,
that was like the greatest stealth scene I've ever seen.
Yep.
I don't know why I was surprised by this, but when she went to find where the Pike leader was, I'm assuming this was the Pike leader, and of course Marchese was there, and how everybody was taken out, and it was her. I didn't think they were all going to be killed, but I should have known this because she's an assassin, and I don't know why I didn't think that they were going to get sort of knocked off, but they were, and it was very quick, and I didn't even know. I was like, how do you kill Marchese? Like how do you kill him? You know, but she knew how to do it. And I thought that that was very interesting, that she was able to do it very quietly, just like what you said, Tom, in a stealth manner. So, they didn't even hear her coming.
Right.
And their senses were heightened because it was at a point where they were in great danger, from things that were around them. Now,
Right. You didn't seeing her choke the mayor. She
yes,
picked them up and choked. I mean, that scene right there, that I wasn't expecting to see that on Disney Plus. I
oh,
mean, there
right,
were some
right.
scenes in that episode where everybody's like, "Well, we haven't really seen a good death yet. We haven't seen like I want to see the Rancor eat someone. We got to see that,
Check.
and then just to see her choke that guy was something else, and
Yeah, yeah. Some of
it was great. I mean,
mhm.
yeah, it was great. It was like a great scene, and it was so small. It was boom, boom. That she found out where they were staying, I believe, from Major Dormo.
Right.
So
I get what you're saying, Tom. Though, like it's Disney, right? We don't expect it. But then again, let's think about this. All the Disney stories that Disney makes money off of are based on tragedy. They're all tragic. You have kidnappings, you have murders, you have what you
they're
call
like
it
the kind of mothers, really.
yeah
We don't like
it
moms in Disney, apparently.
yeah, it's Disney. You know what I mean? They're not far fetched from it. Like Gaston, he fell to his death. Everybody has their death moment in Disney. No one's far fetched from it, especially a mayor who's sneaky and slimy and looks like a slug and gets hanged and then his head snapped.
Yeah,
But you hear that head snap though.
Yes, you do.
and Carlos Smith says Master Assassin. Says Master Assassin. Darth Plato says the Illuthorian going out was pretty brutal. A tattooing necktie.
Mm-hmm.
Size one says hung mook by the hammer. Um, and also, I think there's one more. Mikey Lito says he was happy about the Rancor snack. I was too. I liked when the Rancor grabbed one of the pikes and ate him. I also liked when the Rancor took his hand and just like pounded him into the ground.
Smashed it. Yeah.
And then there was another one where he grabs somebody and he kind of throws him and the guy goes like flying. I don't know how far, but it was just like, it was so much fun watching this Rancor, which I thought was very interesting because I didn't know how I was going to feel when he rode the Rancor. And I think the reason why I had a very odd feeling about how that was going to look was because the Rancor was so much smaller. When we saw him in, let's say, what was it, episode 3 or 2, he was a lot smaller, but now he looks like perhaps a fully grown Rancor. I'm sure someone knows the answer to that, but boy, he was huge. And, there was no way anybody was going to be able to hurt that Rancor. I mean, I think it's interesting that Bane knew that fire would hurt the Rancor and would set him off. And it's that, I guess, years of experience that Bane has. I don't know how old Bane even is in this episode, but I think it's very funny that Bane kind of felt like the only challenge to the whole thing. were there any other fighters that even posed a threat the way that Bane posed a threat to the Team Boba? What do you think, Loco Lou?
No, we knew when he first appeared in the episode prior to this one that he was going to be the big bad. He is the face of the opposing force. These crime bosses, they do what they always do. They sit in the sidelines. They don't get their hands dirty. You always are afraid of the one who gets their hands dirty, the one who's willing to pull the trigger. And that's Cad Bane. He is one of the bounty hunters you do not mess with. When you hear his name, you flee. Now, what's surprising is that Mando Din didn't flinch or bat an eye when Boba says, "Do you see Cad Bane out there?" And he says no, saying that he knows who Cad Bane is. He respects him, but he doesn't fear him. He doesn't show any kinds of signs of fear. And I don't know if that's due to him wearing his Beskar, his training, or if he's had run-ins with him before and escaped. Like there's a little something behind that which was glossed over. And you could say that a lot about this episode. There was a lot of things glossed over, pushed in a rush. I really think that this should have been a movie stretched out at least 2.5 hours long. But we got an hour.
Yeah, you make a good point. I just want to say hello to Jared Snyder. How are you, Jared Snyder? And as well to Just a Brown Girl Network. Hi, how are you? Thank you for the peeking Grogu thing in regards to that. And Darth Plato says Bane standing his group against a Rancor, excuse me, was badass. And Carlos says the Rancor grew a bit, which is definitely true. And he could still get larger, according to Max. This Rancor can still get larger. It's based on the individual, which is a good point. And also, what is, Just a Brown Girl also says that she likes the part where Grogu leaped into Din's arms. And it's, of course it was very paid by the numbers, but boy, it was certainly very good. But, getting back to Loco Lou's comment about it feeling rushed at that moment when they met, it did feel like it was nice, but it was like, oh man, why couldn't they meet, over dinner or something? What do you think, Tom? Did you feel that this could have been a 2-hour episode versus a 51-minute one?
Yeah, it could have. And they could have put more into it. But I also, as I said before, I enjoy the fact that it's a week-to-week show, because had this been every episode out all at once, you're going to get someone posting what happened in the first episode and then ruining that last episode. And I like the fact that you get that whole week before the next episode to think about it, to stew on it, to watch it again, to get excited about the next one and try to figure out, okay, so what's going to happen next? And that's the problem with binging something all at once, because then you're left with, okay, so that happened. Now what do I do after this? Whereas week to week, you can build up on it. Second thing, Cad Bane is 71.
Okay.
Yeah, I looked it up.
Cool.
He's 71 because the Book of Boba Fett takes place 9 years after the Battle of Yavin. And it means that Cad Bane is roughly 71 years old when he appears on the show. So, yeah, so he would be pretty old by then, because we first saw him in what, Clone Wars?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So a lot of time has passed between that, which I love the fact that they brought him into it. I really want to see them start pulling more characters like that from all the different places, from the cartoons, the comics, and all that, and make them canon, make them, but it has to be where it's appropriate. Just don't do it because, oh, the fans are going to like this. Do it because there's meaning to it, and that it's going to enhance the episode in such a way it'll push it forward. just don't do it because the fans are going to love seeing this.
And
It's got to be a reason for it.
yes, and I probably asked you guys this question this morning at like God knows whatever hour it was for the three of us, 4:30, 5:30 in the morning. Was the death of Cad Bane like an end of an era for Boba Fett?
Well, that's if he's really dead.
He's not dead. He's not dead. I played it back. You hear beeping. You see his There's a part of his chest he has on his left side that had a computer piece. Yeah, and it's not lit up until Boba Fett stabs him with the gaffy stick.
Yeah,
and then it starts to activate and it starts to beep out. Plus, when they pan over his body, he still has a scowl on his brow. It's like if he kind of died with angry face. Who dies with an angry face?
Right.
But it's going to be interesting going, like I said, going forward and seeing where this all plays out. Definitely that. Just seeing, him possibly come back. Is he going to go after Boba again? It's all very interesting. But like I said, to bring characters like that into it, it's got to push the story ahead, and it added drama and attention to the story because, at one point you think he's going to actually kill Boba, and then it turns out that Boba had the stick that the Tuscans gave him, and he used that, and you basically see Boba working out that PTSD he had. It's almost like as if he was saying, "Don't you dare talk about my father like that. Don't bring him up. Don't, and do not disrespect me." And he just, once he brought out that stick, that staff, and just beat the crap out of Cad Bane, you knew, you just saw it right there, all in his face. Matter of fact, we've had that twice now in this episode of seeing the emotion through even having a mask on, having a helmet on. The first time Bane comes to him, and he's like, "What are you gonna do? Are you gonna let the spice run, or are we gonna have to deal with this now?" And it was almost as if you saw him like, "No." As if you could see like that defiant look on his face. But he had the helmet on. I find that so interesting that they can do that with Din, and now with Boba Fett with just a helmet on, and somehow you can get what the emotion is. Almost as if you know what they're thinking, and it's very interesting to me how they're able to pull that off, as if you could tell what their facial body language is, even though it's covered.
And
I love that.
That's a very good point. Louis Livet says, awesome series, 8 out of 10. I measure all Star Wars films and TV by moments. Book of Boba Fett had some amazing moments. All Star Wars content have structure, story issues, and the moments make me feel like a 45-year-old kid again. I would say I definitely had some moments in there where I was like, yes, I was definitely a kid again too. And that's why we definitely have some wonderful things in the show. And I really like what Max says. He feels that there's going to be a power levels display between Boba Fett riding the Rancor and Mando finding a mythosaur like a king. And I think that would be amazing to see. Honestly, I probably would freak out. Also, Richie Dupe agrees by saying Cad Bane's lights, excuse me, did not go out. And let's see what else has been said. Now, this is something that's very interesting, is that Tavi 20 talks about, well, I don't like that they can now bring everyone back from the dead. Basically, anyone who dies will show up in the next episode, silly. I have
You
to
know,
say that
that's true.
I definitely agree with this.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts, Tom?
Yeah, if that's gonna be a trope that you're gonna use every time you kill someone, oh, we didn't quite kill him. I mean, it's not a comic book movie, you know. It's not something rooting in a comic book, and you didn't see that in. Well, no, you did see that in the movies, but
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
it's something that if you do it once in a great while, like sparsely, then that's fine. But if you're gonna do it to every character that comes in, then it just makes it like, oh, he's dead. No, no, he's not dead. He's gonna come back to life. You know, he's gonna come back. He's not quite dead yet. They're gonna fix him. He's gonna come back. So it's I don't think they should do that.
And Loco Lou, what do you think?
I think it's an oversaturation of not killing off characters. But when you kill off your characters, what are you building your story based around? If you kill off of your characters, so Boba Fett was killed off, people was upset about it. They brought him back. Everybody loves him. Cobb Vanth, a lot of people assumed he was going to be dead. A lot of people believed he didn't die. So we had that moment. Then what else? It's always a bait and switch. It's always a bait and switch when it comes to Star Wars. And the characters that they highlight, and in particularly the villains, if they don't die off, then that means there's more to be told, with them. And the big bad is not always who you expect it to be. So that's always something good. But also I wanted to let you guys know I got about 2 more minutes before I have to get ready for work.
Understood. And I think that we're going to be wrapping this program up in a few minutes. Loco Lou, where can people find you?
You can find me in my YouTube channel, Loco Lou. I'll be doing a few streams this week with Brother Cousins tomorrow, which probably be the only one I'll do tomorrow because it's my daughter's birthday. She's turning 4, so I'll be having a very busy 24-hour day tomorrow.
Yes.
And you can also find me at Geeking Out. I'm always live with them on Wednesdays and Thursdays. Oh no, Wednesdays and Sundays, and then whenever something new pops on for Hot Toys with the Wetbot crew in the morning. And Figure Flex Friday, for those who don't know, Lael 16 man 2009 2099, excuse me. And we will be having a quick show over there. And yeah, you see me floating around in the streams.
Mm-hmm. And I added your channel to my list of channels on Positive Fandom, where it says featured channels. Geeking Out is on the list. I have to get your channel, Loco Lou, as well.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. And Tom, where can people find you?
Well, you can find me here in the chats or here on the live streams like this one. The next time you see me on a live stream will probably be Mando, unless something else comes up and it seems like fun that you want to have me come to. I'll definitely be part of that. But you can find me here in the live chat, in the chats themselves, as the moderator. And I want to say hi to Charlie the Unicorn. Welcome.
Hey, Charlie.
What's up, Charlie?
And I'm also in the chats over on the Network. And I once in a while mod for the Midnight Meta, which is coming up soon, guys. So get ready to get meta.
And you're also on Twitter.
I'm on Twitter. Yeah, I was just about to get to that. Thank you.
I'm sorry.
No. Don't be sorry. I was just about to get to that. And thank you for reminding me which one it was. Yeah, at Tom Junior Jackson. I know it's a bit of a shock that that would be my handle. I'm sorry, but it fits. It's short, simple, sweet, and easy to remember. So, RM, where can we find you?
Yes, you can always find me here on Positive Fandom, my YouTube channel. But you can also find me streaming on Twitch as well under Positive Fandom, one word. On Monday nights, you can find me on Toxic Femininity, streaming with Lorena Creole, Mandy Summers, and Nina Infinity. On Wednesdays and Thursdays, you can find me also on the 1/6 Scale Man Network, sometimes on Say What, but always on Thursdays on Uncivilized Scoundrels. On Friday afternoons at 12 p.m. Eastern, you can find me on Midnight's Edge with Tom and Andre and Cameron Pasha. On Friday nights, you can find me on Midnight Metal streaming with Robert Meyer Burnett. And on Sunday mornings at 10:30 a.m., you can find me on the Sunday Brunch, my live show on Positive Fandom, where I talk all the good stuff, all the parlay on all the IPs and fun things we like to talk about and entertainment. So please check it out, guys. Thank you so much, Charlie the Unicorn, for, for your comments, as well as for, I think it was Toffee20 who had said that this was one of the best shows that he's seen. Thank you so much for your kind words. Here it is, Toffee20. We so appreciate that. That's very kind of you. And for everybody who's given their comments and opinions about stuff, thank you for adding to the show. I want to thank my co-panelists, Tom, who is also my collaborator, and the mod. Thank you for everything that you do. And Loco Lou, thank you so much for joining us and enriching this conversation. I certainly did enjoy this episode again, now that we have time to think about things and it's not in the middle of the night. But thank you to you both so much for coming and enjoying this whole experience. Let's try and revive this again in the next series. And I also wanted to thank everybody out in the chat and anyone who will be watching this episode going forward. May the best days ahead come to you all. And always remember, as you are traversing through the universe, always remember to be kind.
Thanks for coming.
Ciao. Thanks for having me. See you guys later.